in the capital. Let's talk about this more. With me in the studio, Jason Johnson, an author and professor of politics and journalism at Morgan State University. And next to him, Rina Shah, Republican strategist and consultant. Rina, did today go according to plan in your strategist's head and according to what the Republicans would have liked to have seen from a speech point of view?
I think entirely. You know, Republicans have always stressed hiring American and buying American. And those are two things we heard in those exact words in Donald Trump's inauguration speech. So I think Republicans are feeling energized because the messages that they were looking for are there. Of course, he did take a slam at the establishment. So maybe that was something that made most Republicans who are in Washington right now cringe.
Why did he do that? Why would he have done that? Why would he have chosen that opportunity?
It's a tip to his supporters, because his supporters have always been against the establishment, those who were already elected and already here. So certainly some of the Republican electeds in town are cringing and thinking to themselves, gee, you know, what's going to really happen if he's bringing the same campaign rally style talk to an inaugural speech? But again, the higher level messages and the themes here were America first, and he really said it in those words.
Jason, he seems to be representing many people and viewpoints here, isn't he? Sort of ticking all of those boxes.
Right. As long as those boxes don't include Muslims or people of color or the LGBT community. Look, this is a campaign speech, and so Donald Trump has been elected, and he's going to speak to the people that got him into office. What we're seeing now with sort of some of the rioting and the protests and the people concerns is that he's going to have to expand his tent. If he wants to actually govern this country, and he doesn't want this to become a standard picture on the nightly news every day for the next 4 to 8 years, he's going to have to find a way to expand who he speaks to and use language and rhetoric, not just to bring people together, but to make people feel safer. How
far could this go, these protests, and how damaging could they be, other than him going, listen, there's something fundamentally wrong here, I need to sort it out?
I mean, they could get really bad. Anytime you have the potential for violence, anytime there's a possibility that people could get shot, it could be problematic. And again, the greatest concern that I have, it's not that people are protesting, that's going to happen, it's America, we've had that throughout history. My concern is I don't know that this administration has the patience and the discipline to let people sort of express their feelings and move on, because if there's a heavy crackdown, the riots will just get worse, the protests will just get worse, and then this does become a somewhat ungovernable state.
How do the Republicans deal with this?
Well, they have to have dialogue and conversation with the leaders in communities such as Black Lives Matter and groups that they've never engaged with typically in the past. I mean, they've got to stop really taking the hardline traditional stance that they are only with law enforcement, for example, and they're not embracing the sort of all lives matter movement. It's a time that Donald Trump be a president for all Americans, as he promised on the night that he won. And I don't know that Republicans can do it right out of the gate. I don't know that we'll see it in 100 days. I'm not entirely convinced of that, given how Donald Trump has acted, his behavior in the days.
Sorry, rather patronizing during his speech when he said, you know, we are, you know, all the same color, blue, black, whatever. It seemed like a sweeping generalization.
Lip service.
Yes,
indeed.
Karen? Yeah, he's lying. He's lying. He has no intention of doing any of those things, and he's not going to govern that way. The issue is going to be, how soon is it going to occur to him that if you don't govern it that way, you can't govern at all? You know, America is not just going to be Washington, D.C., and it's not just going to be the heartland of Michigan. It's not just going to be Ohio. There's California, there's Florida, there's tons of other places where you've got to manage and work with people. And if you don't have an attitude of doing that, you can't run the country. And he'll figure that out fairly quickly.
And in these tons of other places, tomorrow, we are expecting large numbers of people on the streets. I believe you're going to be...
I will be on the streets here in Washington, D.C. At least I plan to be, weather permitting. I'm joining the Women's March because I believe that there's one message that march is going to give. And I've heard it from the organizers myself, that this is not an anti-Trump march. And that's coming from the organizers.
But it's anti what he believes in.
Certainly. There's so much. And there are women who are coming with that in mind, that this is anti-Trump. And I respect that. And I'm going to be part of the great American experiment. Democracy in the streets. It's the cornerstone of what's happening here in America, is peaceful demonstration. That is the cornerstone of our democracy, and I want to be a part of it. I want to engage with women who are nothing like me, who I haven't connected with ever in my lifetime, and I want to hear from them the problems that plague them and the solutions that they think we should have, because I also have solutions and ideas, and I think we can only get better when we have greater discourse and engagement with one another, whatever side of the aisle you're on. So I expect it to be peaceful. I'm going to join because the message that I've heard from the organizers above anything else is that women matter. And I think Ivanka Trump, actually, prior to her father winning the presidency, was going along that same message, giving that message in her own company's branding and her personal branding.
But negated by what her husband said as far as women are concerned.
Well, yeah.
Demeaning them.
Yeah, her husband demeans women, her dad demeans women. I mean, but that's not new, right? We've had, Lynn Cheney, Dick Cheney's daughter, he was vehemently against gay marriage, and she said, yeah, but I support my father and I support him. So children don't always have to agree with their parents. But what I think is important is this. You're going to have this march tomorrow. The issue is going to be, how does Trump address, or how do the Republicans who run the House and Senate, how do they address these kinds of concerns? These people aren't going anywhere. They're not going to stop protesting. They're not going to stop complaining. And unless you give them something that is policy-oriented, that makes them happy, or you demonstrate, hey, look, I'm willing to listen to you, they're going to keep getting louder and louder, and it's going to be harder and harder and harder for things to function. I don't know if they're going to do it. I don't know how long it's going to take them to do it, and I don't even trust that this is going to end up being safe and peaceful, because when you have like a million women coming to one place.
That is a concern, isn't it?
Yeah.
Jason Johnson, we have to leave it there. Rina Shah, thank you both of you. And that's it from Washington, D.C. Back to you in London, Mary.